So my name is Yuri Caldato, and I am from Autodesk. Uh, so I am not the typical person from Autodesk that you would assume would come to a conference with construction in it. I actually don't work for the construction team. I never have. I'm part of Autodesk research, and as part of my research team there, I work with a couple of different parts of Autodesk. But first and foremost, I have to start my talk in the sexiest way possible, and that is because of my work in Autodesk research. My views in this presentation are that of my own and not of Autodesk. If you would like to hear the official Autodesk take on construction, any of that, next week is AU. I recommend you attend that, and Andrew will talk a lot about Autodesk's official case on most things. So even within Autodesk Research, I'm not the typical employee there. I have an MFA from Yale in production design, and I have an MBA from MIT. And so I'm really focused on two big areas at Autodesk, and that's first off, how do we collaborate with industry, startups, and academia, looking at future industries that we may be interested in. And then internally at Autodesk, I'm really focused on systems and processes and how we can collaborate better internally. And again, one of my first projects right now is focused on AI, and Andrew and Raji will talk about that more next week. So I wanted to just start off by just talking about blockchain and construction and where we're at, and just flash a few headlines from across the years. And so here's one from HBS, a couple other ones, and there's something I want you to notice, that regardless of the year that these have come, and I have got ones from all the way back in 2018 to 2023, there's a lot of forward-looking projections on here of ways that blockchain could or might revolutionize. And actually, the last one I found at Autodesk. We wrote it originally in 2020 and then rewrote it in 2023, which means that nothing really has changed from 2020 to 2023 in how the different writers are thinking about the potential of blockchain in construction. And even beyond that, I want to look at a startup, a very, very promising startup that popped up in the States. Oops, I see the, oh, I guess that's just the back. And so this is a company called Brick, and they worked on a blockchain digital twin with Gardner Builders. And it was actually a very, very promising project. But here's the problem. So they originally came out in 2017, and their original name was Brickschain, which should tell you exactly again when they come about, because in 2017, that was the easiest way to raise VC money, was to give yourself blank chain. So they actually changed that in 2019 after this first project, and then changed their name to Brick, and then raised $3 million to be an AI-focused construction company, and that was their seed round. And here's what's even more interesting with them. And so again, this project was very, very forward-looking, and they were supposed to be the leading edge of this. But when you look at the founders, who actually came from Procore, their biggest problem was that they couldn't really sell blockchain commercially. And so now they pivoted to AI, which is doing very well, and they're raising a lot more money and doing phenomenal with that. So even at Autodesk, and so this is actually why I'm here, in May of 2022, we had a very strong blockchain idea, and that's because I wrote it. So this is the DALI version of the white paper that I wrote. I'm legally not allowed to show you. And so, again, this is all part of that other stuff. And so I had DALI just do a visual representation of what it thought a white paper might look like, and my desk is totally just like that. But what I did was, myself and a couple of our members of my team, we sat down with the different business divisions at Autodesk, and we went through the potentials of how blockchain could influence different parts of our company, the risks, the rewards, and how our customers could potentially also benefit from this as well. And then I went on a speaking tour throughout Autodesk and started with Andrew and Raji and gave a lot of presentations to them about what's happening. And then I went to a speaking tour then throughout the different business divisions, through construction, manufacturing. And if you're noticing all these X's on the back of the screen right now, it's because the longer my speaking tour went within Autodesk, the more the economy and the more of these companies collapsed. And the less interesting that Autodesk became in what happened in blockchain. So by November of 2022, what would have been a very promising rollout and potentially new projects died very, very quickly. And so part of what I want to bring up on that is a likening to what happened in the 1990s. And so what often is discussed in the 1990s, obviously, is the dot-com bubble. What's not included in the conversations about the dot-com burst is that a lot of the excess of wealth and the easy access to cash helped roll out further versions of what happened in the internet. And so we're talking about R&D and 3G, giant server farms, fiber optic cable. That led to what we're able to do now, which is algorithmic search, social media, mobile computing, cloud computing. And so something similar is happening now through the blockchain space. And so what often happens is, again, people who don't believe in what's happening in blockchain look at the rise and fall of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as the definitive point of like, it doesn't work. So as it crashes, they think then obviously it's absolute garbage. And the one thing that they're getting wrong is they're conflating price with inherent value. What we do know is that blockchain isn't going to go anywhere because it creates one very specific priceless asset, and that's trust. And so while we don't know exactly, again, what blue chip technology is going to come out of this, we know that because of trust, it will continue to evolve from there. Okay, so why aren't we using blockchain in construction? And so this is actually, these are a lot of the actual feedback I got when I did a quick tour of the construction part of Autodesk as well as customers. The interesting thing about this is you probably could associate a lot of this feedback in most construction areas of any kind of software. Again, the one big difference being crypto equals blockchain. And so to the average person, they believe that whatever happens in the crypto space is equally happening in blockchain. And so whether or not, again, they think it's good or bad, it's if blockchain or if Bitcoin and crypto is crashing, means that this actual technology is garbage and they don't want to be associated with it because they don't know what's going to happen with that. There's also, again, complexity of cost, standardization, limited personnel that can actually go there. So there's a lot of education that still has to happen to get there. So I thought I would look at a couple of different industries that maybe we can use as a parallel in the construction space. So first off, supply chains. And so right now, HP has been rolling out their own blockchain. They did a test with DHL about payments, but they actually, right now, HP is creating their own enterprise blockchain. They're doing it with their own systems. They don't talk about it online. I only know this because I know one of their VPs there, but they have a factory in China. They are using blockchain to track every single piece of component. And so when they deliver that to their customers, they know exactly where everything came from and can trace all the traceability with that. IBM did the same thing. So they're also rolling out enterprise blockchain solution. They did a test in 2018, 2019 on the food supply. So Nestle, Walmart, Dole, Unilever, and a few other companies also worked with them, where they, again, did the traceability of food from its origins all the way to the stores. And they are still continuing to roll that out. And now we're watching this now in the fashion industry. So Givenchy and H&M, they're working with a couple of startups that embed RFID chips as well as QR scans to trace from where some of their garments are coming from to the end. And Burberry particularly, I had a call with their head of sustainability. They are extremely focused in the next 5 years of increasing this traceability of every single one of their garments. And so their goal, which they're doing on the back end by themselves, is where does the farm, the original, each of the elements of their clothing come from, all the way to the manufacturing, all the way to the stores. And so at the end of the day, each customer knows exactly where everything came from, and they can then figure out all the traceability behind all of that. So beyond that, why would blockchain be interesting to a large corporation? And I've spent the last couple of years chatting with random corporations about this. And so bear with me as I go through this quick economic model. I promise I will wrap it up into a bow at the very end. So this first comment I want you to look at with the one, that's called integrated governance. Basically, it's how companies are using sales teams to sell their product. Item number 2 is the free market economy. And so that's how goods and services are then sold once they're out of the company's hands, the open market. And what we know is that blockchain is both an economic tool and a network typology, that when you combine it together, it creates an internet of value. And it does this through the transfer of digital ownership and persistent scripts. So again, everything we've kind of talked about today, potential NFTs that represent digital ownership of unique goods and services or assets, and then smart contracts that make it all happen. And so what they're doing for the first time is the ability to transfer dead assets into live capital. Also, so this third column here I'm going to show you is called non-integrated governance. It's basically disintermediation. And so how do companies sell things without having a sales team behind it? And what we're seeing for the first time in a long time is a marketplace for surplus and ungoverned resources, where again, originally dead assets are being sold live. And Nike is the prime example of who's doing this. And so this .swoosh, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it or not, it came out of their research department. It is a community where they pulled together different elements of the sneaker community to help basically co-design where the future of Nike is going. They have actually been able to sell dead assets. So they came out with the Air Jordan movie a few weeks ago, or actually a couple months ago now, and they have went to the archives, they've refound a lot of the original sketches, turned them into digital assets, and have been selling them. So again, dead assets, now selling on the live environment. In the first few months, they earned $185 million in revenue just from the NFTs created from .swoosh. And in general, their entire marketplace is $1.3 billion in sales and resales. That's elements and money that they never would have gotten beforehand, because every single time that something gets sold, they get a piece of that as well. The other company I want to talk about is Starbucks. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but Starbucks is very much into the Web3 and blockchain space through their program called Odyssey, which they quietly rolled out about a year ago. And so what it is, it's an experience for coffee drinkers to come together and talk about coffee and to see the traceability of where Starbucks coffee comes from, because Starbucks does use blockchain to trace the origins of their coffee. They have been releasing digital collectibles. They call them digital collectible stamps. Their first one they rolled out, sold out in 18 minutes, and they made $234,000. Now, for Starbucks, it's not a very large dollar amount, but they keep on rolling these out more and more. Here's a snapshot of my Odyssey account. The one interesting thing about how Starbucks does this is that it is a pure blockchain Web3 play, but they never mention Web3 or blockchain anywhere on this. It is just an experience where you get digital stamps and you get to look at the journey of your coffee and you get to talk to others. You get to play in a metaverse around pumpkin spice latte. I did this last week. And then you get to like throw pumpkin spice lattes at things. It's a completely interactive experience that's actually held on the Polygon blockchain, and the user, unless you really know, has no idea that it's Web3. And this is kind of what I want to get into a little bit toward the end of this. And we talked about this yesterday. And if you were around in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of the music playing devices talked about how many MP3s can be on their devices. And then one day, Steve Jobs gets up on stage and says, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And from that moment on, nobody cared about MP3s. I actually don't know the last time any of you have even thought about MP3s on this. And so the important thing of this is, as a technology becomes more ubiquitous, it becomes invisible. And it's really, at the end, all about the experience. And so look at what Starbucks is doing and focus on really the user experience versus the technology, because that is what the average person really cares about. They don't really care about, like, again, blockchain and what happens when they want it to work, they want it to be safe, and they want everything to look good. And so at the very end of this, just the couple of things that can help the market move forward here. First off, simplify your narrative, focus on the real benefits versus just the technology, because the average person just wants it to work and to look great. Learn from what other industries are doing. And so I know I get a very, very quick demonstration of what's happening in supply chain, a few other things. But those use cases are popping up more and more and more in other industries, because they're learning about the benefits that they can derive from, again, revolutionizing of dead assets and disintermediation. And the last little bit is about collaboration. And again, this is what I'm focused on at Autodesk. It's bringing together industry, academia, and startups, because not one individual place is going to do it on their own. They're going to do it with academia, startups, and industry together, because each comes at this from a different angle. And so my hope with this is that the next time somebody gets up on stage like this and does a presentation, the start of it won't just be about headlines from the potential of blockchain, but it'll be how industry, academia, and startups got together. They pooled their resources, they pooled their collective thinking, and they found ways to actually solve a lot of the problems that industry has, and it all is just working out. And so that's it for me. Again, I would love to chat with anybody who is interested in more collaborations. That's my email address at Autodesk. And thank you so much.